course, which is an advanced course. It's folks who have taken the 10-week course that are now trying to implement my models in their communities. Sometimes it's an organization, even families that are trying to implement, the structure of problem solving, looking at root cause analysis, and recognizing how to formulate a problem statement, how to go in and how to make change, and how to do that quickly. So that it's a technique, and there are a variety of things to learn, but you need part one. People will often say to me, oh, well, gosh, I've read the book. Can you send me the model? No, I'm not, because this is heart work. It requires you personally having some transformation. And I don't just put that in the hands of people that are trying to check off boxes. This is really a transformative course that moves you into a position to be able to do some substantial work and practical work in the community and within your family and your life. So that's how you do it. Go joydegruy.com, and you'll find all of that, including my books and whatever else is out there. Also, suggested reading lists, films, all that.
So along the lines of heart work, how do teachers and educators mitigate the implicit bias that you've talked about? What is it that they can do? What soul searching can they do to help mitigate that bias?
Well, in my case, as it relates to my grandchildren, I'd be very real with you. I got skin in the game. I show up. Okay, Dr. Joy shows up. I've done free training. I'll train everybody, faculty, parents, anybody you put in front of me. So one of the things that I would say is that heart work, one, requires that we don't sit over here and complain about it, but I'll sit up there and tell you what's wrong, but I'm going to give you what you need to correct that. So I've gone in and done trainings with the teachers, with the administrators, and with the parents. And I'm saying because it's not in isolation. This is a collective thing. You can't, what we've done to kids is we've taken them out and said, well, this kid has a problem, and we're going to work with that kid. And we're going to get him a tutor, and him this and him that. And then we're going to send him back into an environment that does not help facilitate the changes that you're trying to help him make. So I need to give the same information I'm giving to him to his parents and whoever else is in his environment. And beyond that, I have to look at the institutions in his community that he engages with, and also preemptively talk to them about how we're trying to. You see, it's a collective effort. It starts here, but don't think you're going to, throw a 6-week summer program and end up with some amazing results, right? Mm-hmm. What my work focuses on is addressing it at every level, the level of the individual, the family, and the community. Mm. That's what needs to be done, which means everybody got to roll up their sleeves. And there are communities around the country that are doing that very thing, that are doing amazing work. And we can do it.
What are some of those communities, if we wanted to look at
absolutely.
How it's happening well?
Rochester School District. Look up the Black Agenda Group, the Black Agenda Group, and you'll get a whole host of people who will talk to you about what they've been doing in schools. I was able to implement the model there. The problem with every place in America, and this is where we as Black people have to pay attention, is we will work, like I said, we dogs get sick on us, we get fire, water hosed, all these things happen. We knock down these doors, civil rights. But then what happens is we get one more person in office, whether it's a superintendent of a school, not to mention, I'm not talking about just the president and I'm talking about on a local level, that will send you 20 years behind. They'll send you backwards 20 years. One individual that steps in, takes all the work you've been gathering, and you're going backwards. What we have to learn is how to sustain this in spite of the fact that that's going to happen. Because those folks, I'm sorry, some of them are straight up white supremacists, and they're coming in there, and they're not in there to accommodate us or people of color, but we have to do it. So I train teachers, and I take the low-hanging fruit. Who wants to learn the relationship model, which is the name of my model, the relationship model, because that's what works, proven empirically to work. That's not my opinion. We have proved empirically that works, a relationship-based academic setting. And I don't care what you're teaching. I can help you understand how to do that, and how to understand how all these intervening variables are impacting how people move through the world. You know, we put a lot of emphasis, you know, people say stuff like it takes a village. People love that term. Well, I've been to villages all over the world. I go to the villages and I'm in the village. And it's absolutely true. It does take a village, but very few people know what that means. It means that everybody's accountable. We're not sitting waiting for some program to come down. That's not how villages work. And they don't let, you know, anybody sick in the village makes the people in the village sick. And so we have to understand that collective, which we had at one point during segregation. We understood what was on the table, we dealt with it, and we kept it moving. And what we did was we bought this illusion, and we've been suffering ever since. But I'm saying we can do this. We dealt with a whole lot worse, and we're able to deal with it. We can deal with it here, but it requires a collective. And the course takes you through, of course, the information, but then takes you through how to strategically build what you need for change to happen, and quickly. So the way it's designed is you go, okay, I want to work with this program with girls in foster care. Okay, great. Are you going to go put some model on it and look at it for a year or two and then go, wow, it didn't work? Or how about let's look at it for a few weeks. Let's look at, okay, what happened? What went well? What didn't go well? What do we need to tweak in 3 weeks, not 3 years? And so it really helps the process along the whole route, as opposed to us grabbing. People will go, well, this really worked well in Baltimore. That doesn't mean it's going to work well in Portland, Oregon. Right? So you have to be able to look at the local context. We teach how to do that, how to understand what is going to be useful here that may not be useful over here, and how you tweak it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, a lot of us are doing great work, and that's the other thing. We need to highlight the positives. There are incredible positive things going on with people of color and African Americans in particular. We need to showcase that, and we need to talk about that more, as opposed to all the negative things, especially during this time of COVID when we're locked down doing this, right? So that covers those things.
So let me ask, during this time of COVID, what should we be doing specifically to ensure that for example, if schools are virtual, how do we combat some of the implicit bias that we've talked about? What are the things that schools should be doing who are exclusively virtual or having hybrid programs to ensure that we are telling the truth in the right way, and that it is not getting lost in a desire to do virtual or hybrid well?
Well, I think it's the same thing we should have been doing prior to this. And that is monitoring what it is children are learning. We need to monitor that and hold people accountable. If there's information that's missing, I don't just go, why aren't you talking about it? I'm going to go, here's it's a series of information. I'm going to go on and email that to you. And I want to know how you're going to integrate that into the curriculum. We need to pay attention. Like I said, Black folks tend to not show up in certain environments, largely because they've been themselves injured, or they don't know how to negotiate it, or they don't know how to engage with folks. I work with anybody, anywhere they are. I help them bridge that gap between them and those institutions, and to say, you make people accountable. You don't have to beat them up to make them accountable. You see, you probably weren't aware of this, but I think it's critical. And based on this research, it suggests that it's very necessary for children or youth or whoever you're talking to know that. And also for us on a college level and high school levels, we also have to empower our youth to begin to question and ask about things that are important, right? We've got to empower them to go, you don't just suck down what people say to you. You say, oh, that's really interesting. Where did that come from? And how does that, balance with, and again, there are a lot of legitimate questions that people have about anything, my work or anywhere else. You should question it, right? And if it doesn't work for you, you're going to have to say, gosh, I would like to know more about, and then I'll go and here's some references that might be helpful. Here's some film, here's some documentaries. But you're not going to just tell me this one little section about science or math or literature or geography, whatever, and not cover this, because it's a pretty critical piece. And I don't see it as part of the curriculum. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
We have to advocate, we have to pay attention, we have to monitor, and we have to offer assistance. That's what I did. Like when I walked into the schools of all my grandkids, I go, you got me free, right? You got me free because I got skin in the game. And I know that those are critical years that are going to determine their success later on, what people are saying to them, what they come to believe. I was a kid, just for anybody listening, that needed the fourth explanation. The first time the teacher explained an assignment, I was just paralyzed, couldn't hear anything. The second, I heard part of it and kind of understood it. The third one, I kind of got an understanding of what was asked from me, just needed that one more piece. Who raises their hand the fourth time? There's nothing wrong with my brain. There's nothing wrong with me. I learn in a different way, but had I listened to my teachers, I would have never gone to college. Right. So these are things that we have to look at in our own children. Don't let people beat down the spirit of your children, and don't let whatever this experience is sour them on learning. We've got to become more creative because, again, it wasn't designed for us. And if you go look at the system, it was never it wasn't even designed for most white people. Yeah. It was specifically a class of people to work in factories. You know, the Carnegies and you got to look into that history. It was American education sucks in general.
Yeah. So along those lines, wouldn't you agree that it's important for educators who want to do it well and do it right to seek the truth, to not just allow this moment with all of, I mean, as I'm sitting here just taking in your presentation, and then last week we had Mike Brown and Brother Sundiata and Liz Dozier, to really kind of capture the history of the American educational system. And then for you to as eloquently as you did, just present the facts, the truth. It's important, I would imagine you would agree, for educators who want to do this right, who believe in truth, to seek the truth, because it's not in the books that we buy. It's not in the series that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on every year that align with the state standards. It's just not there. So how do we actively seek the truth?
Here's one thing. I don't believe, I probably should, but I don't believe that if you say to teachers, educators who already believe they're educated, by the way, they got what they need. They already believe that. I don't believe that they are in and of themselves going to say, well, they believe they have the truth. First of all, they believe they have the truth. And when you say to seek the truth, then they get in their feelings. And then they start, trust me, I've been through all this with teachers, and heaven forbid if Cindy cries, then we're really in trouble, right? But what I realize is that we have to make them accountable. In other words, it shouldn't be, we'd like you to look. We're going to have to insist that you include this into the curriculum because it's true and it's real. And I don't want you to have the option to do the soul search because I can't rely on you doing that. So we have to make this mandatory. And the way you make it mandatory is you say, okay, here is your curriculum. Here is information that is critical to the topic or the subject matter you're talking about. Doesn't matter who you are. When I say every major institution, if you don't ask them, they're not going to mention that anybody had any contribution other than white males to whatever it is. And they may have a couple of spotted, white women somewhere in it, but there is nothing in it that's designed to talk about your reality. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to be talking about history, you're going to be talking about math, you're going to be talking about science, you can't avoid Black people in any of those areas. And you have to not only present the information, then insist that it be introduced and have some accountability if it isn't. When you start, I got to pull up a slide.
Go on now. Do your thing. We got time.
Pull up a slide because it's really important for me to do this. Let's see. So we pull this up and then we'll go to escape that. Oh, how do I do that? Okay. It's going to take me a minute. Unfortunately, I don't know how to work this so that you all can see everything I see. So this is a very long presentation and I never get to do it unless somebody, gives me a little bit more time. We talk about policing, which is a major thing going on now, but I want to talk about axiology very quickly. And I think axiology was one of the things that really saved me when I worked with Dr. Nichols. So let me find it. If my daughter saw this, she would be so mad at me because she says I should know how to make this thing go. I can't seem to make it not have the whole screen, so I don't know how to do that. So,
Take your time. No judgment.
sorry. I'm old. I'm trying to figure it out.
You've done a fantastic job.
Okay, so one of the things I cover, and again, Dr. Edwin Nichols is who you have to call and have speak on this. You'll see his name at the bottom of the screen. There's nothing I can say that can come close to the brilliance of this man. Okay, so many, many years ago, I met Dr. Nichols. He taught me about the philosophical aspects of cultural difference, understanding the experience of others, axiology, epistemology, logic, and worldview. I'm only going to talk to you a little bit about axiology because I studied his work, created a model, had the model tested. This is the relationship model of education and educational intervention that I developed years ago, and I've since tweaked, and is called the relationship approach. So you have primary value systems of different groups of people. And what Dr. Nichols did was he looked at groups of people over millennia. So he's not talking about, a couple years, 100 years, thousands of years. He says, how is it and why is it these groups of people chose to move through the world in the way they did? In other words, how did they arrange their cultures around their beliefs or values? So he talks about these, and these are not good or bad, right or wrong. None of these, it's not a hierarchy here. It just is what it is. Every major institution in America is governed by a Northern European construct of reality. So it's important for us to understand the axiology of European. Member to the object, highest value lies in the object or in its acquisition. So the object could have begun with food, right? So let me give you an example. If the highest value lies in the object, go with me 5,000 to 8,000 years ago to North Central Europe. What is your concern? Well, the ground is frozen, about 9 months out of the year. So the object, which is then to acquire food, is based on your survival. So all axiologies in their essence have to do with what people needed to do to survive. So now we're looking at people who had to develop certain sensibilities. The ground is frozen 9 months out of the year, giving you how much time to plant, grow, and cultivate your food. That's 3 months. So if you only got 3 months, you got to get a lot done in 3 months. You've got to plan things. You've got to measure things. You got to figure out who has access to it, who does not. You begin to look at kingship and the whole development of that hierarchy, all in access in relationship to the object, which is what people need to survive. That later became money. It later became power. But the highest value lies in the object. Contrast that with the African Latinx axiology, which we share, is member to member. Highest value lies in the relationship between people. Highest value lies in the relationship between people, right? So that membership, that connection with people, and on with the Asian, highest value lies in the cohesiveness of the group. Native, highest value lies in harmony with the Great Spirit. When you look at all of these axiologies, they certainly have a place, but you have a dominant axiology where everything is the object. Think about this. Let me just share something very quickly. You have preschoolers that go into a school. Very little people, and they're trying to motivate them. So the teacher says, you got Timmy, you got Cindy, you got Traviante, you got Jose, you got all these kids, maybe you got a white horse. All of them are there. You got all the groups that are there. And the teacher says to these little bitty kids, she says, I'll tell you, I have this chart on the wall, and on the chart is your names. And after your names are the days of the week that you're going to be with me in class. So the children go to school for the first time. He said, if you get all your work done, you'll get a star. So they go, oh my God, mommy, I got a star. That's Monday. Tuesday, if you do all your work, I'll give you another star. Oh, mommy, I got a star. I got another star. Well, by about Wednesday, you're going to have the African-American kids, Latinx kids. They're going to go, I'm not doing all that for no star. I can make my own star. I'll make a star for you. I'll sell you a star. You want a star? They'll do, because a star is an object. And so what happens now, Dr. Joy, this is how I began to develop my model. These were kids that they were saying, they have attention deficit disorder. They have a lack of motivation. They blamed it all on the kids. all the kids. So I got same class. I said, you all come over here. Shaquisha, Traviante, White Horse, Jose, all y'all come over here. I put my arm around him. I said, now, I'm going to need you to get all your seat work done today. You guys going to get that done? You going to do that for Miss Joy? Yeah, Miss Joy. I realize they do it for me. Do it for me. And they would do it for the relationship with me. And so I then developed a model to help teachers understand, because these same children that are crowded around me, that are so excited to get the work done because of their relationship with me, are the same children that I can find off task somewhere and go, hey, Robert, come over here. What are you doing? Right? Because now I've moved from my relationship as teacher into my relationship as parent. And I know how to do that. That is a relationship model. So I teach teachers how to do that. Now, at the same time, if we're trying to help our children, let me come out of here and stop sharing. I don't have time to go through this, but I wanted to say to people, I work with like 16-year-old boys, right, who are encountering police officers, people in authority, and there's all of this, stuff going on with them. So I teach them how to engage with white people because their axiologies are different. True story. My son goes to a movie theater. He's like 15 with his friend, Nick, who's white, Greek. They're going to see a PG-17 where a parent has to be there. So Nick's parents are there. So Nick's parents are they're in line. Then there's Nick, and then there's my son, African-American. So the parents are going there. They're only there so that these kids can get into the movie they want. They don't even go into the same movie. So the parents leave. They gets their ticket. Nick pays, gets his ticket, runs to get seats for him and my son. My son comes, pays for his, and they stop, look up, and go, oh, where's your ID? He goes, well, I'm with Nick and Nick's parents. They were right here. I was right there with them. Well, where's your ID? Well, why didn't you ask Nick for his ID? You didn't ask Nick for his ID. So now, white people are clutching the pearls, angry black boy. So long story short, they kick him out of the theater because he's causing a disturbance. He comes home. I'm not there, but his sister's there. And he goes, he want to burn the place down at this point, right? He's so mad he wants to burn the place down. So he's pacing up and down. So my daughter says, sit down. I want to show you what you do. So she calls the theater, and the first person that answers the call, she says, I'd like to speak with the manager. Well, if you're the supervisor, you don't want it to get to the manager because that's part of European culture and hierarchy. So he goes, oh, no, can I help you? Yeah, well, I understand that there was a racial incident in the theater earlier, and I just wondered if you might want to address that before we have a press conference. So, of course, he hands that off to the manager. So the manager then, he briefs the manager. The manager goes, yes, I understand there was a problem. Yeah, well, I understand that there was a racial incident in your theater earlier, and we just want to get, some feedback from you before we have a press conference about it. 20 free tickets on the spot, 20 free tickets. Because guess what? He didn't care about my son. He cared about this happening on his watch. He cared about his reputation. He cared about that promotion later on. So you don't threaten him, you threaten his object.
Wow.
And so my son then, when he had any other problem, he would walk in, and it's the first, I'm telling you, these are clues that I give people. So you go in, someone is treating you, mistreating you. It's contraindicated emotionally for us, but here's what you have to do. I tell every black boy in particular, I said, you want to lower your voice, you want to step back, and you want to say, excuse me, what is your name? What is your supervisor's name? And how might I reach them? That's all. I said, just say that. What is your name? How do you spell that? Thank you. And what is your supervisor's name? How might I reach them? Never goes any further. Never go. My son called me, said, Mom, that's magic. I said, it's not magic, son. It's not magic. It's understanding human beings. It's personal for us. It's emotional for us. It's relationship based for us, but not for them. So they're going, I was just following protocol. And look, he became so angry. Push the button, missiles off. There they go again. You see what I'm saying? But if you don't understand what's going on, you get caught up every single time because it affects us personally. You just laid me off, and you talked to me in the hall a minute ago about how nice my sweater was. And you knew when I walked in the office, I was going to find my layoff papers on my desk. That's personal. When I go back knocking on the door, hey, well, wait a minute. I was just, I was just following protocols, not personal. See, these are things that we have to learn. This is what people learn in my class. So it's important for us to recognize, and I give people full opportunity, whoever they are, to show me who you are. And I'm going to respond accordingly. But I'm going to respond in an informed way. Informed way, because I need to ask people. I tell people all the time that I've said to them, now, do you want to cuss them out? Or do you want to get the money you've been shorted on your check? Just tell me. Because either way,
Right.
If that's what you want to cuss them out, but I don't know that that's going to lead you to getting what it is that you need.
Yeah.
But I understand why you want to cuss them out. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to ask you if that's going to be beneficial for you in this situation. Is that what you want to do? Because you can do that. But I want to help you get, why you were shorted. And the person that handed you that check, they aren't the reason why you got shorted on the check. So cussing them out, it's not on them, right? So these are things that, I think very small things to very large things in terms of working with corporations and working with institutions. We've got to learn how everyone operates in their world, and people operate very differently. We operate, and I understand my people, so I understand what I need to do to help. And we're, of course, varied and different as well.
So, Dr. Joy DeGruy, I want to give you an opportunity to give just some final remarks as most of us are preparing to go back to school in one form or many. Just give us with some parting words.
Well, one of the things I want to say that's very important is that you take care of yourself. We and that's also covered in the class, the extent to which we carry stress and the extent to which we don't ask for help. And under these circumstances, we very much need to get in tune with ourselves. I have something called Wellness Wednesdays. My daughter and I started doing it when COVID happened because we wanted to be in the households and to talk to as many people as we could to help folks through this very, very difficult time, because everybody's not sheltering in place and have all the resources. Some people don't know where the next meal is coming from. Some people don't know if they have the internet to even do this. Some people aren't in safe spaces. So I'm saying take care of yourself first. If you go to Wellness Wednesdays, Joy DeGruy publications, you can see it. All of them are videotaped too. But we talk about a lot of things around health. So it's about this Wellness Wednesdays, about how we can be well. But I would say those of you that are going back into these institutions, I would say to you, you really need to do the deep dive, and you really do need to insist upon things being equitable and just and kind and fair and all of that. But to take care of yourself too, because you got to know there's a backlash coming around everything that's going on. There's a backlash. So travel wisely and cautiously, but at the same time, take care of yourself. Insist upon the one thing that I say: everyone was born deserving to be treated with respect and dignity. You can't erase me. You're not getting ready to ignore me. We have to value ourselves. We have to champion our children and those folks that are most vulnerable. And we've got to also encourage each other to hold people accountable. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're at home, I know Dr. DeGruy asked us to say some words. So if you're at home, I want you clapping for Dr. Joy. Thank you so very much for what was not only an enlightening, but an empowering experience. I think anytime that the cloak is pulled away and you see the truth and you see the light, and you know the dishonesty that's been poured into you for so long, and you can see that, it's a powerful thing. It might not feel good, but it's powerful to be liberated and to be free in that space. So thank you, Dr. Joy DeGruy. Thank you to our sponsors at X in a Box. Thank you to Carice Stevens with the State of Black Learning, who pulls this thing together all the time. Now I'm going to turn it over to our DJ, Nate the Fat Barber. We're going to spend another half hour or so jamming. And I also want to make sure that you are with us next week. We will be back with 8 Black Hands, I believe, is next week. And then the week after that, we've got our Parents Power panel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for sticking with us. We will see you next week here at State of Black Learning 2020. Nate, it's on you, bro.